7:30, and now we are on the phone with Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press,
Yes.
who is live in Rio. Tim, Brady, and Zach in for Roger. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good,
great.
good. Tim, first and foremost, just what's the environment like in Rio? You've been to Olympic Games before. How does this stack up to other games you've covered?
It's a little, it's definitely different. This is my age, and I mean, they're all, I've always said they're all kind of the same, but this one is definitely different. There's, there's this real sense among, in some of the poor neighborhoods of Rio, in some of the slums of Rio, they just, they never embraced the games because they felt, the government should have spent the money elsewhere, and there's certainly a very valid argument to be made. They make a very good point, since that the city is not like, it's not unlike a lot of other major cities like Miami, where I live. It can be shimmering, beautiful, and then 2 blocks away, it isn't. It gets bad in a hurry here. So there's that element of it, and also there's just there's a lot of concern about media. It all started with the concerns of Zika. Last night there was an incident with a media bus. They're telling us that it was rocks, not bullets, that hit a bus window, but everyone's kind of on edge a little bit, and so it's definitely there's still a festive vibe, no question, but it's definitely tinged in caution, which is kind of a difference from every other games that I've been to.
Tim, do you, just on a totally human and personal level, do you feel 100% safe?
I want to say yes. I don't think you ever do anymore in this world. I don't think you do in Albany. I don't think you do in Miami, and I don't think you do at the Olympic Games. I think it's, I think they've taken a lot of precautions. There's armed guards everywhere. They try to be very visible with it. Let's put it this way. I mean, I was downtown. I was in downtown Rio the first day for a story where I had to play Pokemon. Don't ask.
I saw that.
It actually wasn't a bad story. I just, I'm not the guy to be. I'm sort of anti-Pokemon, but that's sort of for another day. I was alone downtown in the middle of the day with my phone out, trying to gobble up Pokeballs or whatever they're called, and no one bothered me. So I think it's like any other big city on earth. I think if you have your wallet out, or if you have, expensive jewelry on, or you're not paying attention to your stuff, you are a target. And as long as you're vigilant and trying to be somewhat discreet, it's no different than Penn Station or anywhere else. You can get from where from one place to another without anybody bothering you. I haven't been bothered yet. But again, I think we're all on a little bit of edge, maybe a little bit more here than we would other places in the world.
Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press. He's live in Rio. He's on with Big Board Sports. Brady Farkas, Zach By in for Roger. And Tim, let's go on to the fields of competition. Where have you been? What events have you seen? What have you taken in sporting event-wise?
Seen a lot of things in the Olympic Park. I've stuck my head in on some tennis. I've watched some basketball. I have not been down to Copacabana yet to see beach volleyball, but that's obviously quite high on my list. I've seen some fencing. I've seen a little bit of a lot of different things, and that's what, I don't have a sport assigned to me here, which is actually kind of cool because I can just kind of go pick and choose. So I've tried to get, different tastes, if you will, from a lot of different venues, and it's been neat. I saw the U.S. men play Venezuela the other night in hoops. I'll probably go over to their game tonight, which will be a great game, I think, and there's a lot of American fans here, and there's a lot of fans that aren't rooting against the U.S., but are definitely cheering for the underdog, and that's not uncommon for an Olympics either. It's not anti-Americanism. They pay good money and they want to see a good game, and I can definitely understand that.
Tim, what has caught the biggest buzz on the ground where you are in Rio? Is it the USA basketball team? Is it the gymnast last night? Is it Michael Phelps? What's caught the biggest buzz around the Rio Games?
Well, I want to say it's some of the very personal attacks that you haven't seen in other games with regard to the doping, with regard to what Katie Ledecky did against the Russian swimmer, the South African swimmer trying to call out Phelps a little bit, and Phelps responding with a finger wag. It's some of that stuff. I think what Simone and the Final Five did yesterday was just beyond compare. I mean, to win to win an Olympic gold in that dominant a fashion. You don't often see that in gymnastics. That was neat. But for whatever reason, these games have really embraced that whole rivalry, that whole MMA, WWE, we need something extra kind of feel to it. Phelps with the finger wag, Katie saying there's no place for dopers, even and she was even asked about past U.S. dopers, so there's no place for them. It's that sort of thing that's gotten the most buzz here. It really hasn't been Phelps' 3 golds. It hasn't been the dominance of Simone. It hasn't been what Katie has done. And really, you could add Usain Bolt's news conference. I mean, track doesn't start until Saturday, but, Usain Bolt came in and danced with a bunch of, danced the samba with a bunch of Brazilian girls at his press conference, which you guys are in media. You don't see that sort of thing. So it's things away from the field that have gotten really the most attention than anything else so far, which is peculiar.
Tim, as you alluded to earlier, you're based in Miami. You've covered not only 8 Olympics, but you've covered multiple NBA championship runs in Miami for the Heat. Let us know, what is it like in the buildings? What is the anticipation of a great Olympic event like versus a more traditional sport like a Game 7 of an NBA Finals? What's the anticipation like? How are they the same? How are they different?
Well, Game 7, it's different in that both are incredibly electric. If you were at the pool last night for Phelps, unbelievable electricity in there, just like there was for Game 7 of Heat Spurs in Miami and Game 7 of Cavs Warriors this year, and all that neat stuff. The thing of it is, though, when you're in a building in Miami, for example, 95% of the people in that building are Heat fans. The difference here is you might have 10% this, 10% that, 30% the home country, 30% people that just got tickets. So everyone's buzzing, but they're not really all buzzing for the same thing. So it's a lot of different buzzes, if you will. And that's what makes these multinational, these multicultural events so cool. There is no real home court advantage. Even for the Brazilians, there isn't a true home court advantage. And I think it just makes for a different kind of energy. It's kind of like, almost kind of like an Albany Siena game. To bring it back to home, when they play every year, it's a Siena home game more often than not, I guess, but that building's usually 50-50. And that's kind of what you see in the Olympics. It's a home game for the Brazilians, but there's people from everywhere here. And if you're going to spend this kind of money to come, you are going to be loud and you are going to be noticed. And nobody's sitting on their hands at an Olympics. I think that's the most fun.
Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press joining us on Big Board Sports. He's in Rio live. And I got to ask you, to shift gears a little bit, you're in Rio now, but on a daily basis, you cover Miami sports for the Associated Press. And I saw this past week when A-Rod said he is not ruling out playing for another team. You CC'd the Marlins in a tweet. Do you think it's a realistic possibility that A-Rod could take a couple swings for the Marlins this season?
The owner of the Marlins is a Yankee fan. And so that's one element of it. He is. And, I mean, no bones about it. He's a Yankee fan. He freely admits it. He's a New Yorker. He roots for the Marlins, of course, but he's a Yankee fan. And A-Rod he's a lightning rod everywhere, but he's beloved in Miami. It is where he's from. He's a University of Miami trustee. The baseball field there is named for him. People consider him to be a Miami alum, even though if he had played college baseball, it would have been there. He never actually enrolled because he and the Mariners worked it out, and they got the deal done and all that. But he's loved there. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but for the last however long they've been around, the Marlins aren't real big draws. They struggle to sell tickets. They're going to be in the wild card race. They look like a team that's going to be there until the end. Having an Alex Rodriguez around, and by the way, guys, he gets along famously with Barry Bonds. He really does. Picture A-Rod and Barry Bonds on the same team.
Oh my God!
You could have that. It could happen, guys. And I'll go a step further. I think that when the time comes for Jeffrey Loria, who I believe that he's not on his way out. I don't think he's 71 or 72. I don't think there's really been any interest on his part to sell the team, especially so soon after getting the stadium done. It wouldn't shock me if Alex Rodriguez is the owner or part of the next ownership group of the Miami Marlins years from now.
Oh.
I think Miami's going to be where he stays forever, and he's going to stick around in baseball. So at some point, you're going to see ties with him and the Marlins, whether it's as a player or whether it's in some other capacity when his Yankee stuff is done. We'll see, but it would be the least shocking thing ever if he was part of that organization.
Unbelievable. Tim Reynolds, AP, the Associated Press, live in Rio. Tim, enjoy the game, stay safe, and we look forward to following following all your stories on Twitter. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.